Hey, you like cars? Finally. Man, I've been missing this setup for, I don't know. How many episodes we are now? 3 episodes deep or 2? Can't remember the last time you guys saw me here in my humble abode of my podcast. But I'm back here, comfortable, not in the mountains dodging bears and chupacabras. I'm here in my setting, and you already know what time it is now. So we're just going to skip right to it. Back to our normal scheduled program, episode 39, CarQuicks. I know y'all feeling good out there. I'm feeling good. I feel the energy. I know y'all doing my voice. You hear the inflection, the sense stress, the modulation. So we're going to jump right to what we're here to talk about. You know, it's the car news. So we got something to talk about. Now, there is some sad news. Not personally, car world, sad news. The Last Camaro has come off the assembly line. Actually, there's 2 cars that have come to the end of their run. So the Camaro just finished its last assembly. The last model rolled off the assembly line. I forgot where they even build those. It's somewhere in, I'm not even familiar, somewhere in Lansing, like Grand River plant. The last Camaro came off the line. Now, they made a kind of commemorative special edition model that you can spend near $15,000 on as far as getting this special package that gives you nameplate, serial number, probably something that shows you this is the last run of the Camaro. And it'll get you up to like $90,000 if you get all the way to the top of the pile. But listen, we've had our run. We have some iconic models, the SS. Even I'll give the V6 one because I see them running around all over the place. The ZL1 was a supercharged 6.2 liter V8 making 650 horsepower. One of my all-time favorite though. Like if I was to ever get a Camaro, it would be the Z28. Not in the old, I'm not talking about the older classic Z28. I'm talking about the latest models with the LS7. 505 horsepower. You know which one I'm talking about. How many liters was that? 7 liters? I think it was like a 7-liter LS7, 505 horsepower, naturally aspirated, close ratio, 6-speed manual. My goodness. That particular Camaro is the one that I would personally buy if I was looking for that newer body style Camaro. I'm not the biggest Camaro fan. I'm not even going to begin to act like I am. But if there was one to get for me, it would be that one. Now, another car that came off the line, and this was a hood classic. I mean, one of the all-time greats. The one that got you high up in a certain echelon, even if you didn't have the money to truly buy them. And that's the 300C. And anybody that saw a 300C, Bentley grills, Rolls-Royce Phantom front end swaps, the hood classic. Then you got the SRT model. That was a classic one. They released it one last time on this last run, but the 300C came to a close. And I would wager that you're going to be spending a little bit more money for them 300Cs as time goes on, because Chrysler, the future of Chrysler is up in the air. I don't even know what they're going to do next. I don't even know if they're going to keep Chrysler around in this totality of what it is now. It may go down to one particular model. They were really only known for their 300C. So to have something like that go away, I don't know what they have coming up next. They haven't spoken about it, even for the Camaro. Chevrolet has said the Camaro name will come back. What we can only hope for is that they follow suit like what Dodge did. And Dodge originally said, we're only making EVs. They had the Challenger EV. They rolled it out with its, fake instrument type of sound. I found it kind of cool. I already said I did. But then they backtracked and they said we're putting the Hurricane inline 6 twin turbo V6 inline 6 in there because they already see the EV lineup hasn't really panned out the way people have thought it would, and we'll get to that later. So the 300C is gone. Hood classic. Listen, if you want the SRT one, if you want the last Hemi one, the V8 one, if you see a clean low mile example sitting around at some random lot who has been paying attention to the news that they're not making them anymore, better slide in there and grab it while you still can, because reality is, as soon as people find out, can't buy it anymore, guess what's going to happen? We are going to be sitting on a market that's going to just shoot straight up, and y'all going to be arguing in the forums like, yo, I remember I could have copped one of these for like 13,000 max. Now they want 23. Listen, we already been here. Any car person knows you sleep, you waking up with a different type of news. Now, outside of the two models like that have gone away, we do have some interesting news from a car company that, granted, they need a rehaul for their design department, but that's BMW. Now, to talk about the design real quick, BMW is no longer designing cars for the US market. We're not the bread and butter anymore. It's not. I noticed a bunch of G80s, G82s, the S58, B58, M340i's, the aftermarket, the drag racing, road racing guys. We have those cars doing things that I never thought they would do, especially the G80. The numbers that they put down for the most minimal amount of modifications, pretty outrageous. The Toyota Supra kind of helped boost that up as well too with the B58 engine. So BMW has a very strong aftermarket, strong future here. But as far as like the totality of what they're selling and what they're designing, personally, I think their design is strictly for the Chinese market because of how ostentatious and how ridiculous the front ends are looking. It's just, none of it is elegant. It's all just extremely flashy, right? But their CEO, Oliver Zipse, Zipse is his last name. I will say Zip, but I'm sure it's not how you pronounce it. So he said, we do not want to write off combustion engines. He was talking to a group of people in an article talking about EVs and the future of BMW, because BMW, interestingly enough, has not been one of the manufacturers that came out and basically land-blasted combustion engines as if they were an afterthought all along, and that we're just jumping to EVs because it's the most better, efficient, more known version of what the future is going to be. They have kind of held strong saying that we believe there is a future that has alternative options to just EV, hydrogen, e-fuel, and they've invested heavily into those areas. But what they were speaking to is that they're going to continue making combustion engines. Now, the good thing about what they were saying and why it even matters, because they still make M division cars. And when companies that have iconic vehicles like Challengers and RX-7s and STIs, when those companies start saying stuff like we're moving all to EV, any of the car people are like, oh man, here we go. We're about to lose one of the most iconic cars, not even getting one last hurrah to the top peak of engineering for combustion. We're just going to jump to EV and we may or may not get something that's engaging. So BMW still makes their M division cars, M3s, 2s, 4s, 5s, 6s. So them saying they're going to continue to make the combustion engine, to me, sounds like somebody that's going to continue to develop maybe another iteration of the S58, maybe improve upon what it does, maybe have another engine in the lineup. 6-speed manuals may still be around, save the manuals. So it's good to see that they're still focused on, I would say, the driver dynamics. I don't know if the driving dynamics match what they have been known for, because a lot of the cars become a little complicated with the technology. Though the M2 and the M3, I kind of lean more towards the M2 from the articles I have read, that people have said that is still performing like the heyday, one of the best driver's cars you can get. Now, I haven't driven it myself. I would like to one day. But from what you can read, you can get a gist looking at videos, and you can understand people's excitement about the car. So BMW is going to continue making combustion engines. What does that look like? What does their future of hydrogen that they've almost invested close to $1 billion into? What does e-fuels look like? We don't have the answers. But what you can see from BMW is a better approach to what the future is, right? Instead of everybody tossing every single hat, and we're going to get into the EV conversation now because I'm segueing into it. The EV conversation has come up so many times because everyone, let me not say everyone, a large majority of the manufacturers literally threw their hat into the pile and completely eliminated whatever the future of their combustion lineup was. It was almost as if they saw engines as an Achilles heel. We're going to get rid of them totally. I mean, you saw it across the board. We got incentives, take this much money off, you get this much. We're all shooting for the moon. Now, Tesla has always been about EVs for the future, but Tesla, Lucid, and Rivian are different in the fact that they established from the onset, we are an electric car company. We are not doing any combustion engines, we're not doing anything else. But when you have companies like Toyota, BMW, Honda, Dodge, when their entire lineage when 99% of the cars that they continue to make today and sell and on the road are combustion, you start affecting your sales and your customers when you start saying things like, this is the last year of a combustion engine, next year it's all EVs, because some people just, one, they don't want to jump to EVs. They don't like the infrastructure yet. They may not want to fit their house to allow charging. They may drive a long distance. They may not want to be bothered with, the future of whatever they do with degradation on batteries. That's a long time out. I'm not saying that it happens right away. It happens probably in the same length of time that most people keep a regular ICE-powered car, 10 years or so. But the point that I'm trying to make is that they jumped the gun. And when you jump the gun and you go from one extreme to the other, saying if you feel that the extreme was combustion engines, even though that's what technology has afforded us and many of the efficiencies that they have, we got hybrid engines, we got many efficient engines that if you argue the emissions for building combustion engines to the mining and EVs, I mean, it gets very complicated and it gets very debatable because there are some people that feel like there is a give and a take. There's a pro and a con, and they'd rather have the con of EVs and that of combustion and so on and so forth. But most manufacturers now, they're dialing it back. So hearing BMW say this is probably because they watched the news. They watched their other counterparts say, we're doing all EVs. Case in point, Mercedes-Benz was doing EV on stuff and putting hybrid powertrains and AMGs, and folks was like, no, give us back the inline six or a V8 or something, because I'm not paying $100,000 for a high performance luxury car and I hear a hairdryer under the hood. Okay, like nah, not happening, dog. So EVs are a part of whatever the future is. I say a part of because I don't really know the answer of whatever it's going to be moving forward. It could very well be just EVs. It could be e-fuels. It could be hydrogen. It can be water powered. I don't know. Whatever it may be, though, it's not just one thing. We might have had combustion engines all the way to this time, but I think combustion engines get a bad rap when you don't compare like the hybrid ones and different cylinders. That was part of the efficiency. We went from big liter V8s to small liter 4-cylinders that are efficient to hybrid systems. Like, we've made massive advancements. So not to make that long-winded about the EV market and where it is now, but it's definitely being readjusted. Expectations are kind of floating around with how people are deciding what they're going to drive in the future. Speaking of driving, though, Michael B. Jordan, I don't know what to say, man. There's a video out of the actor Michael B. Jordan crashing his Ferrari 812 superfast. He wasn't even going fast. That's the problem. This man crashed into a parked Kia Niro. He may have been doing 40 miles an hour. He's better off just saying he dropped his phone, it flew under the gas pedal. I was trying to grab it. I wasn't paying attention. Some people say he was trying to race a 488 that was right next to him. Maybe he punched the gas real quick and the back end got a little squirrely. He didn't know what to do, overcorrected, smashed into the Kia. I mean, listen, the money is not buying the driver mod. Though I would argue, look, if you have the money for a Ferrari 812 Superfast, please put some money aside to get to a driving school. Hire a private driver. Have them take you up to the canyons and be like, hey, man, show me the limits. Call up Matt Fair or somebody. Call up someone and say, can you take a little bit of your time, show me some of the ins and outs of vehicular control so that I don't find myself crashing into Kias that will buy their lonesome. Because, man. Now, to some real news, okay? Kind of back on the EV thing. Listen, I talk about the EV saying the market is soft, but there are some EVs from certain manufacturers that are very much in the headlines. Listen, the Model Y is the best-selling car in the entire world. I didn't even know this news until a few weeks ago when I was reading up about car sales and everything. So, listen, things are they're fluid right now. We're fluid with the EVs. We're back and forth, ebb and flow. But Porsche has a really big thing coming up. They're working really hard on the Macan EV. The Macan has become a very, very big seller for Porsche, up to the tune of 100,000 last year worldwide that they sold to the Macan. The Macan does battle with, let's say, the Hyundai GV80, I believe it is, the Audi Q3s, maybe Q5, I believe it might be the same size, the BMW X3s, the X3M. So there are a lot of luxury sport compacts, a little bit of the Model Y. I would throw in the Model Y Performance into that category. So it does battle with a lot of the sport, compact, not sport compact, the compact SUVs, the luxury ones, fast ones, and they want this next iteration. They want the next one to be more than its bread and butter. They want more money, more sales of it. Now, the Macan EV is not the only one they're making. I'm pretty sure they are making also a standard ICE version one, but the EV is kind of really the push. And like I said before, Porsche is a company that makes very fine-tuned machines. The Taycan, the Taycan, though that car has proven to be beyond what most people thought was an EV. As far as EVs go with sedans, I mean, I love the way the Taycan looks, and I would buy one of the Porsches because they still give you the interaction of a car. Everything isn't so Spartan on the inside. I'm not looking at a fabric, bookshelf and a steering wheel with one screen on it. I'm looking at controls and design. So they do their thing with it. But the Macan EV is going to be revealed completely in January, right? So next month, 2024, they're going to reveal the Macan EV. I don't know what date, whatever it may be, but the few journalists and car companies, car magazines, got to go see the Macan EV. And here's what we know so far. There's going to be a top model, a turbo, signification. I don't even know if just made up a word. There's going to be a turbo model, 603 horsepower, 733 foot-pounds of torque out of its 2 electric motors. It's going to have an 100 kilowatt battery. We're talking about close to 310-mile range. It uses an 800-volt system. Charges up to 10 to 80% in 22 minutes. Also has a 270 kilowatt charging capacity, so it can run on multiple systems. The 800 volt one is unique to Porsche. They have a system, or they have like a station in a few different cities. Atlanta, Georgia is one of them, where they have this 800 volt system where you can charge your Porsche to this high level very quickly for the Taycan and the Macan EV owners. It also has unique suspension. Now, the suspension part's interesting because the Panamera got the very trick suspension I talked about 2 podcasts ago. Was over there dancing and doing the wobble. And I don't know if the Macan is going to get that. They didn't mention it. They talked about the Macan getting standard coilover suspension for the standard, base model Macan. And then there is an air suspension option that allows you to have the car lower itself, similar to what I talked about for the Panamera, when you're entering the car, and then raise itself up when you shut the door and start up the car and go about your way. I don't think it is the same trick suspension that Panamera had probably because of cost. The Macan does have a place where it sits. I can see the Cayenne getting that level of suspension technology for its next model. So we have a near 603 horse. We have a 603 horsepower, not near, electric powertrain that's coming to the Macan Turbo EV. We also have the standard system. We don't know what the horsepower is going to be, but give or take 400 that I would think that the electric motors are going to do for the standard model. Starting price for the all-wheel drive model is $80,000. I'm sure the turbo one is north of $100,000, guaranteed. You start adding in the, good old Porsche deviated stitching, Alcantara, leather, paint to sample, paint colors, wheel choices. You have been on the Porsche configurator, and you know good and well as I know, we can go from 80 to $150 in no time. Some of the optional interior things, though, I'm really interested in seeing. So I'm a technology person, right? So some of the stuff I kind of geek out about. They have digital dash, you already know, 10-inch like passenger display. There is a 12.9-inch, 12.6-inch driver display, another 10-inch display in the center console. So it's like 3 digital displays across the front end. But they mentioned some option that sounds wild to me, just because of the sheer size and the scope of what they're talking about. They said there is an augmented reality heads-up display that is said to be the equivalent of an 87-inch display. Now, here's what my brain said. My brain said they're throwing up AR onto the entire windshield. I don't know what that looks like. Don't know if it's just a little screen with the speed on the bottom and you just see where you're going with the direction of the arrows, like turn left in 200 feet. Or do they somehow have a way to display on the screen an augmented reality of everything in front of you? Let's say when you have the navigation on. So when you have the navigation on, you see a little small part at the bottom. Now imagine you throw on the navigation to where you're going, and everything you pass, there's some augmented reality information of the road and the buildings next to you. As you're driving by, you might see a little pop-up say that's the BBVA bank building. Over here, the McDonald's. Over there's a laundromat. Right there is a car wash. Over here is a gas station. Up ahead is where you're going to turn. Right there is a park. Oh, over there is a bicycle store. Like, it just augments all the information of the stores that are going by you as you're driving directly to like your windshield. So instead of you looking down on your navigation screen to see, I do need gas, let me just tap over there to do a waypoint, you can almost, I don't want to say tap the screen, but you probably can press a button or something on your steering wheel to say add new destination to the gas station, and it will route you right over there because you see it in your windshield as you're coming up. It augments the information on the front. That would be ridiculous. That would be dope. Honestly, from a tech standpoint of augmenting that information from navigation to the front screen, I think they would do very well to have that type of display. That probably involves a very large camera system, I would imagine, either somewhere at the bottom of the dash or somewhere at the top of the headliner that is pushing down that information onto the screen. Or the windshield is some type of display as well, which would mean if you get a rock chip, ain't no local grocery store parking lot, I do rock chips for $40 a piece happening. You just gonna have to go in there and get like a screen protector. So we gonna be in that Apple store like, yo, I gotta get a screen replacement, my whole windshield. I got to call up the iFixit, iRepair It stores, but it's gonna be for your car. So the reveal is happening in January. Is gonna be, I don't know when the date is. Don't know how long it's going to be. Don't know if they're going to do big fanfare. You can kind of see pictures. You see it on the screen if you watch it on YouTube. You can see it's been camouflaged a little bit. It's not like it's hiding too much. We already got a view of the interior. You can pretty much deduce from even the camouflage that what we're going to get and what it's going to look like. It's the driving dynamics of what they said when they were driving the car, is that it performs in drives just like any other Porsche. The Macan has always been a top performer, especially for performance compact SUVs. It's punched well above its weight. It's driven like a sports car. Everybody has read or talked articles about it, have said this particular SUV performs great. So Porsche knows how to do driving dynamics, right? They're not about to give you a numb EV with their, shield on the front end, because you know what to expect when you get into a Porsche. There's certain expectations, and they usually deliver. Going off of what I have read about them, again, I haven't driven a Taycan, would love to, but I've sat inside of them, fiddled around with it, been able to play around with the controls and seen the build quality, and listen, top notch. So the Macan EV is coming in January, soon to be at your local dealership. I'm ready for the configurator because I'm going to jump on there and go to my configuring. I got a series coming out about that. But keeping with the EV range, there is someone who had to recall almost all of their cars. So Tesla, voluntarily, I'll say, has to recall 2 million cars, which is basically all of their cars. Now, here's the benefit of EVs, or let's just say the future of more electrically connected over-the-air updates for vehicles. It's really an OTA update. And what the issue is that many people have been fooling the autopilot. You've already seen plenty of videos of people jumping in the backseat, putting their pinky toe on the steering wheel and driving across the Bay Bridge. And everybody's been like freaking out. You've seen people sleeping in the back or making a sandwich in the passenger seat, having tricked the system into thinking that they're holding the steering wheel, that somebody's in front of the wheel. So the update that they're bringing is to bring more alerts and more things to the car so that drivers do not abuse this system. And it's welcome. I mean, obviously, there are some people in some videos I've seen of people pushing autopilot to a level thinking that is truly like autopilot when it's advanced radar, like cruise control, and you still need to keep your eye on the road and your hands on the wheel. So they're doing the update. It's 2 million cars because it's Tesla, because it was a recall. Any naysayers are going to jump at this and say, that's a problem. I can't believe this is happening. Everybody does a recall. A recall to me is somebody like a manufacturer acknowledging that there is an issue and that it should be rectified, as opposed to waiting until, not to say that they haven't in the past, waited until some catastrophic happened before people started getting recalls, aka, Takata airbags or, mysterious acceleration in Toyotas. So they're doing their update. It hasn't talked about when it's happening. I don't own a Tesla, but I'm sure if you do, you've already been notified of this because it's such big, huge news that I'm sure when you're sleeping and your car is parked and it's charging in the background, they're going to go ahead and do the update. You won't know any better. Now, speaking of, oh my gosh, coming back from the dead, Hyundai is back to the shenanigans. This time, I think they're serious, but they've been playing with our emotions with this Envision 74 concept since they showed it. I've already spoken about it. The Envision 74 concept looks so good. It was basically like the last Japanese mobility show when Mazda rolled out that beautiful Mazda SP concept, RX-7 Miata love child. That, I mean, really, if that doesn't come out, it's been a disservice to the entire automotive industry. But Hyundai has now said, again, after saying they were going to build it, then backtracking saying they weren't going to build it, then coming back to the drawing board and realizing that's the best thing they've done in their entire existence. So they said they're going to build the Envision 74. Round of applause. Excellent. I'm excited. Here's the bad news. They're only making 70. 70. 70. Not for the US, not 70 for California, not 70 for South Korea, not 70 for Japan, 70 worldwide. Maybe they add some more in the end. Maybe they add some more towards the end. 70 worldwide. That's less Envision 74s than McLaren F1. I mean, you want to talk about plain? So 70 are being created for the street legal use. It's going to still use the hydrogen battery engine it has, or drivetrain it has. The power is getting up, though. The rumor now is that it's closer to 800 horsepower as a sub 4 second, mid 3, high 3 seconds, 0 to 60. The range has dropped down a little bit lower, though, because when it was this original iteration of the concept they showed, it was a 400-mile range on 671 horsepower. That has now dropped down to about 300-mile range, though anybody that has the means to get an N74, if you're one of the most fortunate lottery winners of the 70 examples, I'm sure you're not going to be sitting there arguing with the salesperson like, I mean, it used to be 400 miles, it's only 300, now I got to give it back. Nobody's doing that. They're also making 30 examples to race, which is also interesting because I'm trying to figure out what series we're racing in, because it could either just be all Envision 74s and drivers racing each other, or other car companies are going to bring something to the table for them to race in, or they might throw it in Le Mans, just have their own little special category. I don't know. Here's what I do know. If we're only making 70, 30, 100 total, 30 of which are out of there, so take a third of those out, do you know how much it's going to cost? Like, before, I was like, they can dial it down a little bit, do a little production modifications here. It doesn't got to have a carbon fiber wing. We can do fiberglass or aluminum. We can do something, make a tweak here, come in around 75, 80. Nah. Listen, the Hyundai Ioniq N, the 5N, the new electric Envision EV hatchback is $65,000. Closer to probably 70 when you're done. So I was way off. I didn't know what I was talking about. I was talking to the side of my head once again. Now, the Envision 74, I would speculate, is probably $200,000. I mean, that sounds absolutely ridiculous, but let's just say let's say if there's a reasonable number, it's $100,000, $120,000. Now, who's buying that much at a Hyundai dealership? If they're doing 70, I would almost suspect that every example that is being sold is going to come with some type of commemorative ceremony or a special delivery at a special dealership. Maybe they pick one in a special market, like maybe they have one in Houston, Dallas, LA, New York, and say, if you're buying one of these, we're going to fly you out to here. We're going to bring in the truck. We're going to have this commemorative, ceremony, show you the car, show you all the stuff, because you coming to pick this up at a Hyundai dealership while somebody's trying to, pick up a Palisades is going to be bonkers. Like, no. Two vastly different demographics that need to be, given a certain level of treatment for each one. So the Envision 74 is back on the drawing table again. I'm waiting until next week when they say they're not making it anymore, so we'll see what happens. Speaking about a car that shouldn't be made anymore, or I'm just shocked that they had the audacity to even make a change, is Infiniti. So I was scrolling through the internet, reading car news, car websites, just reading articles back and forth, killing time. And then I stumbled upon one on Jalopnik, and they had an article saying that Infiniti raised the price of the Q50 for 2024. Let me just be frank here. The Q50 is so dated looking. Like, I don't really know what Infiniti is doing, what their future looks like. I really don't know what they're going to do, because the entire lineup needs an overhaul. And I don't mean that ridiculous way of Nissan doing the Hyper-V Force Jedi, Gladiator Enterprise Starship version of the R36 or the Skyline that they did. So I don't know what Infiniti's going to do, if they're taking cues from Nissan. If they're not, they're doing their own thing. Things are looking kind of funky over there, and most of the designs now, especially for the Q50, has been looking the same since 2013, 14. I don't know. It's dated, but it's still being made, and somehow folks are still buying this thing. It's got to be like the Ultima or Maxima owners that decided to upgrade themselves to something else better. But the Q50 was given a price increase of $475. I know you're like, yo, CarQuicks, you did all that for just $475. Listen, what they should have been doing is taking off $4,475 off the MSRP of this dusty car. So the Q50 now starts at $44,200. Listen, I'm shocked, truly. I don't even know who's buying this thing. There are fans, though. I know somebody was going to say, I love the Q50. I'm going to go in there, buy a brand new one, get the Red Sport, get the 400 horsepower twin turbo V6. It's the one, they're going to, all the accolades of what the aftermarket can give you for what your car can do. I'm just talking about a stock basic Q50 is not on my list and shouldn't really be on yours anyway. There are some better cars out there. Trust me. Speaking of some better cars, the best car ever, the GR Corolla. I got some work done on it. No performance miles, just did a 20K mile service. I was thinking about doing an owner update, but the last one I did was at 15,000 miles, and 5,000 miles later isn't really justified for another video. So I'm going to wait closer to like 30 when I'm going to do, another big update on how the car's been holding up. Now, there was an issue. I believe I might have mentioned on the podcast episode, but I had the grill tabs in the front of my grill had broken off, like cleanly snapped off right off the grill. So it's kind of like leaning down a little bit. I suspect the stiff suspension in the chassis is not helping these little weak plastic tabs that are on the front that hold up the grill. So when I went for that service, I told the dealership that they ordered me a new grill. There are plenty of people online who are documenting this grill issue. I mean, there are a number of people that are coming forward like, I got the same problem. So just like Tesla had a recall, we're hoping that Toyota at some point recognizes that we've had this back and forth, that maybe one day they will come along and say, yeah, there does need to be a recall, or we need to redesign the grill so that we can have something better. I don't know if that's going to happen. Waiting to see what they decide to do in that aspect. But I got the grill replaced, did the 20K service, went out, met some friends at Catalina's, a coffee place, good friends, hung out, saw cars, gentleman in Houston has an RWB that looks fantastic. One of Nakai-san's own personal ones that he got. What a awesome story. I have a series coming that I'm working on that I want to interview drivers, and he's a gentleman that I gave my card to and said, I want to do a series where I interview the driver. I have some other friends that I want to interview, those that run garage, Coffee and Cars Garage. David and his friend Travis, they have a shop that they build classic cars, classic motorcycles. I want to interview actually both of them separately and just talk about what makes them do what they do. Why do they choose to do classic cars? What drives you to want to start this company? What makes you get over the trials and tribulations of being a small business owner and doing it in this field where it's really about disposable income, because not everybody has the means to just build and power, and fund a car build. So that's a series I have coming that I'm hoping to shoot the first I want to shoot the first episode of that series in January. I want to launch it in the first half of January. I'm writing out my plans, what I have for my podcast next year, what I want to do for the YouTube channel. I got to my 1,000 subs. I kind of want to do more of a celebration of that, but I did a big post, and I am very, very proud of what I pulled off, because at the beginning of January in 2022, I started this CarQuicks podcast and I started the YouTube channel, and I said my goal for longevity is to get to YouTube partner, get 1,000 subs, and get people listening to the podcast in some type of consistent fashion. So I'm going to put out one every week and do my best to keep up with that. And I did. And back when we were in Mexico, I hit 1,000 subs. And even though for some people it might be small, I think about it and I'm really, really proud of what I pulled off, because like I said, I had thought about doing this podcast and this type of video format for so many years, and I just never did it. And then I finally said, I'm going to do it. And now I love doing it. And I'm okay with throwing myself out there. Me making a whole business card. I don't even have one on me to show you on the screen. But me putting one out there, putting myself out there to even talk to people, to hand them a business card that I made custom so that it has a nice feel, so it doesn't get lost in the pile of other business cards, was for me to get started and say, I like your car. I want to talk to the driver. I don't want to drive your car. I want to have your car as a backdrop and we're going to talk. Tell me about it. And I want to do it in a way where we meet up in different areas. I don't want to have to do it at people's houses. I like people's privacy. I like them to keep it. I like mine too. I'm not interested in how much money they spend on the car, how much money they make to afford whatever said car is they have. We're not here about that. We're here about the person, the man, and the machine, the car and the driver and the car. What is this relationship? Why do you care so much about this? What drives you to want to have this car? Like, why do you want to own it? And I hope to do that next year in a very consistent fashion, at least once a month or twice a month. Get, somebody that wants to interview, meet up somewhere at the park, set up the camera in the distance, kind of like, B-roll, pan it out a bit, and just have a conversation. Change the angle of the camera while we're talking and just continue the conversation. That is what I look forward to the most. I think it'll add to the YouTube channel on top of the GR Corolla modifications and things I'm going to do next year, on top of the video podcast. So I'm excited about what I have in store, truly, because I just never thought I'd be here. Honestly, I'll be perfectly frank. I thought we were going to be grinding it out with 300 subs until the end of time. But we've gotten to the first goal, and the next goal is even bigger. Like, it doesn't end. The things I have in mind get bigger and bigger. That was the first one, was huge for me when I first started. Now I made it there. Now I got to jump to the next phase. What is the next phase? Is it subs? I don't know. Did I get to 10,000? Could I get to 5,000 by the end of this year? Maybe. I don't know. All I know is that we've come to a close here. Hope you enjoyed yourself. We talked about Tesla, them bringing in a recall for basically all the cars they got on the road. Hyundai is, I guess, done playing games, and they're going to make the Envision 74, though I'm never going to be able to afford it because they're only making 70 for the entire world, they said. Or maybe they're making 70 for the U.S. Regardless, 70 is, listen, I can't afford it. Porsche is coming back with the Macan EV. They're going to basically shake up the luxury sport compact SUV world and try to figure out their Macan EV is something that people truly love. BMW's holding on to the combustion engine too. And there's more news coming. Listen, don't be like Michael B. Jordan. Please get the driver mod. Put your two hands on the wheel, okay? Stop street racing. Listen, find a dirt patch, find an old parking lot, and figure out how your car handles in some fashion. Maybe, hopefully, it's in a safe fashion. Do something as good as you can do. But this is the end. But next week, episode 40, that's a big deal too. I'm ending this year with a bang. We got another episode coming up. And you know what I always say? Do as you wish and do as you may. It's Cameron Biggs, your host. Back home. I'm not traveling. I'm not in the mountains. I'm back on my spot. I'll see y'all around. Peace.